Hello, my name is Heather Butts with L.E.A.R.N for Life Consulting, and I'm happy to be with you here today to kick off the Introduction to College Readiness Interviews, Common Application, and College Essay online training series. This will be a series of five online trainings, and they will happen every Sunday at 10 o'clock. Now, I would like to thank all of you that are joining us today and let you know that your prize for being here today is that everyone on the call today will receive a 1-hour complimentary session on the topic of your choice. So you'll have a 1-hour session with me, which will either be on the interview process or going over an essay or the common application or preparing the timeline, which you'll learn more about in this session. So you can contact me, and I'll give you the contact information at the end of the webinar, and we will set up your 1-hour complimentary session. So thank you very much for being here today. All right, so let's get started. So who am I? My name is Heather Butts, and I'm the founder of L.E.A.R.N for Life Consulting. I received my bachelor's degree from Princeton University as a history major. I then went on to St. John's University School of Law. I received my JD. I then received a master's degree in public health from Harvard University and a master's in education from Columbia University's Teachers College. I've been working with at-risk youth for over a decade, and I've specifically been working in the college preparation, college counseling arena for about that time as well. So here's a few questions that we need to get off the table right from the bat. Are you committed to applying to college? And remember, when we think about this session, this is both for students but also parents. So parents are welcome to join. And as you think through this session, you too should think about these questions for your children. So are you committed to applying to college if you're a student? And parents, do you think your child is committed? Have you started thinking about applying to college? Certainly, if you're a senior in high school, a rising senior, you should have thought about this by now. But if you're, in 7th or 8th grade, maybe not. Well, you're going to see the timeline at work. Ideally, you start the college application timeline even before you get to high school. And I know that sounds early, but it's really the best way to go. We visit any college campuses, and in our session that we're going to do in a couple of weeks on the college visit, we're going to talk about what that means, and it doesn't necessarily mean just doing a tour and an information session. When do you think you should start the college application process? People have different thoughts about when they think they should start, but oftentimes it's a little bit late in the game. Do you have a timeline in place for applying to college? Do you have a checklist in place for applying to college? Why does college matter? Is college for me? So again, when we talk about college, we normally think about the 4-year liberal arts science education. But there's lots of other possibilities. You can get a 2-year degree, an associate's degree at a community college. You can go to vocational school, or you can get a 4-year degree. So you need to think about, if college is for you, what does that look like? Or rather, we should say higher education. If higher education is for you, what does that look like? More education means more choices, right? More education means access to people who you otherwise would not encounter and exposure to new and exciting possibilities. And more education means higher paying jobs. More education also means more education. So the more education you get, the more education you get. Timeline. So we're going to start this timeline at your junior high school years. Again, if you're a senior in college, a junior in college, don't worry, you can catch up. But, if you're in 9th grade, timing is perfect for you. If you're in 8th grade, even better. Once you get to high school, it all counts. And I often get queries from students who say, oh, you know what, I kind of had a rough time as a freshman, and my sophomore year grades aren't so great, but as a junior, I'm really on the upswing. That's wonderful if you're doing an upward trajectory, But honestly, what you want, ideally, is from ninth grade on for your grades to be stellar. So that's why you really want to start this timeline sooner rather than later. By sooner, meaning junior high school. All right, so one, you're going to create a timeline for the next 4 years. Now, what does that timeline entail? We're going to talk about it in a little while. But the major points are going to be a to-do list. Items you need to make sure that you do, that you're prepared for, that you make happen. You need to make sure your grades are excellent and maintain those excellent grades. And to start to prepare for transitioning into high school, definitely define a mentor. And by mentor, I mean a champion, not just somebody who, is going to take you to lunch and so forth, but a mentor meaning somebody who's going to be a champion for you. You want to take challenging courses, especially in the STEM areas. 26% of students who do not take geometry go on to college, whereas 71% of students who do take geometry go on to college. And we can talk about, causality versus correlation and what those numbers really mean. But basically, if you're in the upper echelons of classes, that means that you're going to be prepared more so than if you're not. That's really what it means. So you need to think about that and think about the courses you're taking, how you're preparing for school, and what your preparation looks like for the long term. Continuing on with the timeline, you want to take challenging courses in the arts, computer science, foreign language. Computer science is huge now, right? So computer science is really where it's at in terms of going on to higher education and, really making a difference. So if you can take even some basic programming and computer science courses, it will really hold you in good stead for the future. You want to start thinking about a brilliant placement in college credit courses once you get to high school. And be prepared to discuss this with your counselor. I can't tell you how many students I talk to who either don't know their counselors, have never met their counselors, or have had one encounter. This is not good. This is not good. You want to make sure that you know who your counselor is from the beginning. Why? Because when you become a junior and a senior and you're preparing for college, you're going to need to have a relationship with that person. So start early. And talk with your family or mentor. Remember that person? If your family is not started planning financially, start looking to financial aid, scholarships, grants. The time to be looking at financial aid is not when you're a senior in college. You want to start looking early and often. You may not be able to apply for a lot of scholarships as a freshman in high school, but at least you get them well prepared. Have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 scholarships you're going to apply to. Just get it ready, and when the applications are ready to go off, be prepared. All right, now we're in high school. So obviously you want to do well in school. You want to cultivate relationships with those mentors I mentioned, those champions. You're going to start visiting school. It's not too early. And again, on a later online meeting, we're going to talk about what that college visit looks like. And so you want to make sure that your time isn't wasted when you go to visit these schools. You want to do well in school, start to research scholarships and grant programs, and create a resume. You've got to have a resume for this process, and one of the sessions that we're going to do is dealing with the resume itself and creating a robust resume. Get involved in extracurricular activities that you actually enjoy. Don't just get involved in extracurricular activities because you feel like you need to get involved in extracurricular activities. Review your timeline and make sure you're on schedule. Create a checklist of to-do items. And in future sessions, we'll talk about all this. Obviously, if you want to work with me one-on-one on all of this, then you can do so. If you're having trouble in a particular area, get help from teachers, after-school programs, mentors. Get help. Do not suffer in silence. It's one of my catchphrases. But don't suffer in silence. Get yourself some help before it's too late. Surround yourself with supportive friends. If your friends aren't supporting you, they're not your true friends. So be around people who are about what you're about, which is success, which is college readiness, furthering your education. That's who you should be surrounding yourself with. All right, junior year, summer before senior year, review your resume. You want to visit as many prospective colleges as possible and make appointments with admission counselors or other counselors. Is community college an option? You want to think about that. Start listing out your colleges. You've got to have your final college list done by the end of your junior year at the latest, maybe the summer before your senior year, but you've got to have it done because obviously you don't want to waste your time again just visiting schools willy-nilly if it's not going to be a real match for you. Why are you going to visit 30 schools if you're not even going to apply to 29 of them? It's a waste of your time. So the sooner you can get that college list done, and, you know, we will talk on a later recording about what that looks like and what the parameters should be, but the quicker you can get yourself ready for the process. Register for SATs, take SAT prep courses. This is critical. Happy to talk with anybody about the SAT prep course continuum. There's lots of great prep courses out there. There's some online trainings now, online education. You definitely want to register for a prep course if you can swing it. There are scholarships that are available. But you want to register for the SAT prep course if you can, because everybody else is taking them. So if you don't, you're going to be behind the 8 ball. Fall senior year. You want to speak with your guidance counselor, make sure you're on track. Now, by speaking with your guidance counselor, I mean you should have already spoken with them. So this should just be a update meeting. It should not be, hi, my name is Susie, and I've never talked to you before, and I need to talk with you now. No, because remember, and we're going to deal with this when we deal with the common application in detail, this is going to be the person that's going to be writing to the schools about you. So you want to make sure that you know them. Complete your college list. It really should be completed. If you haven't completed it, you got to complete it by now. Make sure you have a mix, safeties, reach, match schools. Your counselor, family can assist. You know, if you have a external college counselor like myself, obviously that person would assist you. But you need to make sure that it's a robust list and has a good mix of various schools. If you're applying early decision or early action anywhere, speed this process up 3 to 4 months. So all of what I'm talking about here should be done, you know, the end of your junior year, not fall senior year. By then it's too late. So you need to speed that process up. And then start preparing for the college interview. When I work with students in the college interview process, we do multiple, and I mean multiple practice sessions. You can do them through Skype. We do them through Skype here, or some other online training. In person, I give homework assignments for students. You do not want to walk into a college interview, and that's maybe the second or third interview you've ever had in your life. Not appropriate. So you need to practice and practice often and a lot, because a college interview can really be a make or break time for you. Start identifying who you will need letters of recommendation from and give them plenty of notice. If they're popular and a good teacher, everybody's going to want a letter from them. You're going to take the SATs and make sure you're having your scores sent to the appropriate schools. And obviously the only way you're going to do that is if you have your school list finalized. Keep filling out applications and read, proofread, go over the grammar, spell check, proofread again and again and again. This is your job right now. So to the extent that you do your job properly, you will hold yourself in much better stead during the application process. Winter, spring, senior year, make sure your counselor is sending your grades. So this is where the checklist is going to come into play. You got to check off all these things. You are in control of your own destiny, so you need to make sure that you have this all in place and that you're on top of it. Not your parents, not, you know, your counselor, you. You need to make sure that it's in place. Keep those grades up. You want to make sure the grades are up this senior year. Then you're going to get into schools. You're going to visit schools one final time and then make your decision. You know, the one thing that oftentimes students forget, you get all busy and rushed in this process, and you forget to thank people, right? So you should get yourself some thank you notes. You can get them from Hallmark for, you know, 10 for $4 or 20 for $6. Get yourself some thank you notes and write them. Take an afternoon, You know, you can even write a thank you note to your parents. That's always nice. Parents like to receive thank you notes. Just thank people, thank them for what they've done. It's a nice thing to do. It's proper etiquette. Hopefully you do feel thankful. And you never know, you know, the world is round, and you may need to work with these people again in some other capacity. So they'll probably be a lot more willing to do that if you've been thankful and appreciative of their efforts this go around. All right, so we're going to talk about the college essay now. And remember, if you're doing a common application, you have your choice of essays, and there's one sort of open-ended essay question. All colleges will probably have some sort of supplemental application, even if they're using the common application. So remember, the more colleges you're applying to, the more essays you're going to have to write. Don't just think, I just got the common app application and I'm good to go. You may have the common app application, but you may have, if you're applying to 20 colleges, you may have 20 supplemental essays and 20 supplemental applications to file. Just remember that when you're getting your list together and you're putting your timeline together. Right, you want to distinguish between short answers, direct questions, general essays, personal statements. These are all different, and you need to essentially create a tally, a to-do list of what you need to do for all your schools, which is why you need to have that school list finalized sooner rather than later. What does school want from you? Make sure you give them what they want, nothing more, nothing less. They want a 100-word short essay. They don't want 200 words, 800 words. In this process, more is not more, it's just more. Think about what you want to write about. And again, you know, this is why you got to start the process early. Because if you're thinking about that 3 days before essays are due, you're probably not going to come up with something great. Do you have a resume? If so, take a look at it. Refresh your memory about what you've done. What have you accomplished? Resumes are good for a number of reasons that we're going to talk about on a later educational session. But one of the great things it can do is help you process what you want to accomplish. What makes you unique or different? Do you have a favorite book or movie that is particularly important to you? These are all possible essay topics, and so you want to start thinking about this now. Really, think about it now. Other topic areas, trying time in your life that you've had to overcome. Again, remember that if you're going to talk about something like this, you need to make sure you can actually talk about it and do it in a way that's not going to be painful or upsetting for you. Substantial extracurricular activities. Not, you know, I'm on a tennis team and I played in 2 matches, but I play the piano since age 8. I've been on the squash team since 9th grade and I'm the captain 2 years running. You know, I've in a volunteer organization and been involved giving to the homeless. I've been doing it since I was, 11 years old. Things like that. That's what you want to talk about, and it's meaning for you. Someone who has a great deal of meaning for you. It's good. I did a session for a couple of kids, and I said, who's the most influential person in your life? Each one kid raised his hand and said, me. I am. Good answer, you can talk about somebody else. You can talk about yourself. Someone who's had a great deal of meaning for you and why. And, you might want to discuss why you want to go to a particular school, right? And, schools reaching your goals. These are all great topics that you can talk about. Are you stuck? You need more help deciding what to write about? You can talk with friends, teachers, family members, trusted mentors. Remember those mentors? Keep thinking. As long as you started early enough, you'll have time to come up with a topic. The later you start, the less time you have. Essay writing tips, start early. You want to write your first draft and continue to write drafts until, you have several drafts, and then you want to finalize it. You don't want to write one draft and send it in the next day. Have someone else read it, make sure it conveys what you want it to convey. You don't want any typos. Read it once more before considering it final. Remember, for those of you who are applying for 2014, the common application prompts are already available. They're already out there, so there's no reason why you shouldn't start them right now. You should be working on them now. I don't know, why it would behoove you to wait till some later date. No reason to. You can start now because they're available. Takeaways: make sure your essay is consistent with the rest of your application. Right? I always get this example. If you have 24 on the SATs and a 4.0 average, you're not struggling in school. So don't write an essay about how, I've struggled so much in school. School was so tough for me, and na. You may have had some internal or external struggle that you had to overcome. That's interesting. But you got to be consistent, right? Conversely, if you've got a 1.9 average and, 1100 in the SATs, talking about how you're the greatest student ever is not going to really ring true. So you want to make sure your essay is consistent with the rest of your application. You can use an essay to explain certain parts of your application. Just don't repeat what's already in your application. So, again, 2400 SATs, 4.0 average. We know you're a great student. You're doing well. You don't need to repeat that. So, going over that again and again and again isn't really going to be super helpful. Diversity is great. Discuss this if it applies to you. And actually, really, diversity applies to everybody. We're all unique and diverse in our own ways. So just figure out what that way is for you, okay? And remember, essay topics say a lot about who you are. So choose wisely. Pick a topic that's important to you and has some gravitas, has some weight, right? Don't pick some fluffy topic. Unless you can write a really great essay about it and make it not fluffy, which then is counterintuitive because by virtue of that it's not going to be fluffy. But write an essay that has some import and importance for you. Pitfalls to avoid: don't try for tricks or something for shock value. The essay should tell your reader something about the rest of your application that the rest of the application doesn't tell you. Don't go over the word limit. This is critical. Can you follow directions? If you go over the word limit, clearly you cannot. So it's a little bit of a test for you. Don't make up stories. Honesty is the best policy. And more likely than not, there's no reason for you to. You don't need to embellish. You've got, I'm sure, multiple great stories, so use them. Don't try to be tricky or cute or anything like that. All right, so we're going to go through a couple of essays here. So the first one is I want you to write a 200-word essay on the following topic. Tell us about the neighborhood that you grew up in and how it helped shape you into the kind of person you are today. All right, so this is going to be your first exercise. And on subsequent trainings, I'll tell you how we're going to use that. But for now, write it and hold on to it. Exercise 2, pair up with a friend, guardian. They will take the role of the interviewer. You will take the role of the interviewee. Have them ask you the following questions. All right, so this is where I'm going to talk a little bit about the interview process. Tell me about yourself. As students who work with me know, this is my big one, right? Tell me about yourself is something that you got to have it, and it's got to be clean, crisp, clear. You can't stumble over it. I would suggest for exercise number 2, you write all of these out. So tell me about yourself. I would say have 5 points that you will use to tell me about yourself. So you use the points, and then you describe them. Tell me about yourself. My name is Heather. I was born in Queens, New York. From Queens, I went on to go to school at Princeton and then at Harvard. My name is Heather. I took piano lessons for 8 years. Taking piano was a wonderful way to help me with discipline and focus and time management, and I'm truly glad that I was involved in piano lessons. So you want to have 5 points. You put down the facts, what you did, and then you describe it. So you should have 10 sentences total. The fact, description, fact, description, fact, description. Write it down. Who in your life has the most influence on you? This is similar to what we talked about before. Again, write this down. Make it a paragraph, maybe about 5 to 7 sentences. And just talk about someone that's had an influence on you. What do you do with your free time? What's your favorite book? Why do you want to go to college? If you want to sort of get bonus points and you already know some of the colleges you want to apply to, why don't you write down why do you want to go to this particular college? Why do you want to go to Chicago? Why do you want to go to Boston University? Why do you want to go to Yale? Write that down. That could be question number 6, actually. Or actually, you could do that for as many schools as you want. But you're going to do that, and again, hold on to that because when we get to the interview process, we're going to go over that. But practice it with friends, guardians in the meantime, and write all your answers down and practice them over and over and over and over again. You can't practice these enough. Tell me about yourself is going to be key. Another bonus thing that you can do, we're going to talk about this again a lot more when we get to the interview process, is you should have 5 to 7 questions that you can ask the interviewer, okay? And they can range from, there can be lots of different questions, but you want to prepare them now. Some of them will be generic. Some of them will be specific to your school. So you can always have sort of general questions like, how did you like the school? Is there anything else that you can tell me about the school? You know, all sorts of questions. But then you want to have a couple of questions that are specific to a specific school, okay? And again, that's why this takes work. Because if you're applying to 30 schools, you know, it's a lot of questions, okay? So as another bonus, try that out and see how that works. All right, and then exercise 3, which I want you to do right now, and then we're going to take some questions, is list 5 items that you think should be on your college checklist. All right, so when we think about that, obviously the college checklist, some examples are take the SATs, schedule interviews with alumni interviewers, visit colleges. What are 5 things you think should be on your checklist? And again, we're going to go over the checklist in the next couple of weeks, and we'll talk about all the things that should be on there. But for now, write down 5 things that you think should be on the checklist, okay? And then feel free to ask me questions about that. All right, so we're at the portion we're going to get some questions in, and I see we do have some questions. Okay, so the first question is, what if your child is already a senior? What do you do at this point? Clearly, this is from a parent who's concerned. Okay, so if your child is a rising senior, meaning that in September they will be in their senior year of high school, hopefully you started some of the process. You visited some schools. You looked at some applications. You got a hold of the common application. Feel free to be in touch with me. Heather.butts@LearnForLifeConsulting.com or 347-489-3060. Your situation is going to depend a lot on where you are at this point. If you were saying to me your child is a first-year student in high school, then that's a very different answer, right? And we can sort of do sort of the cookie-cutter approach a little bit, although everybody's unique, so there's sort of unique parts. But there's certain stuff that I just tell you, you need to do A, B, C, X, Y, Z. I'm not sure where you are in the process, where your child is in the process, where your family is in the process. I mean, you know, maybe you applied for tons of scholarships and grants, in which case then I don't need to tell you that. Maybe you haven't, in which case that's going to be important. Conversely, you know, maybe you visited 10 schools and you've done the college visit the way you should, so then I'm not going to say to you, okay, you need to start visiting schools, or maybe you haven't. But just get in touch with me and let's talk about it and go over what you need to do. All right, next, the common application, when will it be available for 2014 students? I'm assuming you mean when will it be available for students who will be entering school in fall of 2014? Yes, that's what you mean. Okay, great. All right, so for students who are going to be entering the fall of 2014, it's available now. So you can go to the Common App website, and if you Google Common Application, it'll come up. It'll be the first thing that comes up. Get in touch with me if you have any problems finding it. But, yeah, go to the Common Application website. It's there now, and like I mentioned, you know, if you're a rising senior, you should be working on these essay prompts now. Actually, even if you're a junior, it makes sense to take a look at the Common Application because there's been some fairly large changes with it over the last couple of years, but nothing that's super, you know, so dramatic that you can't get a sense of what's going on right now. So, yeah, so take a look at the Common Application now. And really, I would say that if you're a rising senior, you should start working on it. Not all of the applications are available for schools that are not Common App schools. So hopefully you have your list and you've been working on it. But you should start now checking to see what school applications are available. If they are available, you should start working on them. Okay, we have a question, student international. I'm going to refer you to another website, www.fundamental/knowledge.com, www.fundamental, fundamental/knowledge.com, fundamental-knowledge.com. You can get all your questions answered there, as well as there's contact information for international students. Okay, we've got a question regarding starting early and what does that mean. Well, as you could probably tell from the timeline, starting early can mean starting as early as, 8th grade, right? And I know students who do SAT prep as early as 8th grade. I kid you not. So obviously, that's a little daunting if you're a junior and you're up against students who've been doing knowledge prep since 8th grade. But, anything before about 10th grade is solid. It's good. By the time you get to be a junior or a senior, at this point, a lot of things should already be in place. And then, essentially what you're doing is you're, finishing off the process. But, by the time you're a junior, you should have a pretty good idea what schools you want to apply to. You should have a pretty good idea of what caliber of schools you can apply to. Have a pretty good idea of, what your picture looks like and so forth. Obviously, you probably haven't taken the SATs at that point, but you can have a good idea of what you're interested in and what you want and what you're looking for. So, starting early means before high school, but if you don't start, then you can catch up. And again, I'm happy to talk with anybody about this. Oh, okay, all right. So we have a question regarding ACT versus SATs. Right, one thing you should definitely do is to look at the schools you're interested in and see how they line up in terms of ACT scores, SAT scores. Do they accept both? Do they prefer one or the other? So a lot of that's going to be dependent on the schools you're interested in, and then obviously how you do on each of those exams. But definitely take a look at your schools, the schools you're interested in, and get some information about that and what they're looking for, which is critical. Oh, yeah, okay, we've got a question about AP exams. Oh, yes. So students, I'm going to make available to anybody on this call a really, really great article that came out not too long ago that talks about AP exams, what's too much, what's too little. I think that will help you a lot in this. I was talking with a student not too long ago who said she was planning on taking 14 AP courses. That's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot for anybody. And so I would say there is a balance. You need to strike that balance. You can talk with counselors. You can talk with external counselors. 14 AP classes is a lot. That's what I'll say about that. All right, I'm going to take one more question. Oh, okay, good. This is a good one to finish up on. Okay, so the student says, once you've gotten into college, how do you make that final determination as to what college you should go to? This is actually super tough, right? Everybody deals with this process on the front end, right? Getting into the schools and finances and scholarships and so forth. And on another session, we're going to talk about all the scholarship financial aid issues. But yeah, students really get they get so vested on the front end that nobody really talks about the back end, right? And that's why I say, this is where the family really becomes crucial, because everybody needs to be on board with the process and what you're doing and what's happening. If you really want to go to the University of Hawaii, but your parents really want you to stay at home in New Jersey and go to Rutgers, These are things you need to talk about on the front end. And it may mean that there are certain schools you don't apply to, and I say that in all seriousness. There are certain schools you may not apply to because you don't want to have that kind of conflict come, April 6, 2014 or 2015 or whenever you're going to be applying. That's a really tough place to be where you got 3 to 4 weeks to decide where you're going to go to college, and you and your family or you and you are not on the same page with it. So again, planning is key, talking is key, communication is key. And again, for parents, you also need to be very clear about finances, right? If you know that you're not going to be able to afford a $50,000 a year school, you need to be honest with your child. Now, again, I'm not saying necessarily don't apply to those schools because there are scholarships, there's grants, there's loans if you have to. But just be very upfront with your child and say, you know what, Susie, we've got a range in terms of what we can pay for, and if you get into X school and we can't come up with the finances, we're going to have to make some hard decisions. So we just want you to know that. So just have a conversation, be honest. It's a tough process, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and at the end it'll be positive, and you'll be going off to some great, amazing school. So you want to make it as seamless and drama-free as possible, and the way to do that is just communication and talking. Okay, so again, my name is Heather, last name is Butts, B-U-T-T-S. I can be reached at 347-489-3060. The website is www.learnforlifeconsulting.com. And I can also be reached by email at heather.butts, heather.butts, B-U-T-T-S, at learnforlifeconsulting.com. Happy to talk with anybody, and I hope to see you on future webinars, and remember to do those homework assignments because we will need them in the future, okay? Thank you very much, and have a great day.